Erev Tov, Rabotai. Let's continue with Pirkeh Avot, Perek Sheni. So yesterday we discussed, right, that there were certain things that a person should do to try to live a good life. How to do a good way, life the good way. Now it's going the opposite way, right? It's coming and telling you, what about the bad way? What's a bad way to live? So it's just the opposite of what we said yesterday, more or less, right? That's what it is. But we have to get into a little bit to describe it. So the first thing, right, they say is that's Ain Ra'ah. A person who has Ain Ra'ah, bad eye. This is a bad person, It's good to stay away from a person like this. I'll explain to you why that is, but person who has Ain Ra'ah, you know what that means, right? Everything he sees in the world, he looks everything negative, and then tries to see the negative side, the bad side of everything. So if he sees his friend, he's, succeeding, making some money or doing some success, he's always thinking, oh, how did he get this? Where did he get this from? Where did this come from? Always thinking bad things. Probably he did some fraud, he stole some money, he did some bad stuff. But always thinking negative about everybody, doesn't want to think positive. No, always negative, everything bad. So what that does is, where does this come from, by the way, Ain Ra'ah, that a person has Ain Ra'ah? You know where it comes from? It comes from jealousy. That you're jealous of your friend, and you don't like that your friend succeeds. It bothers you, you can't sleep at night. Oh my God, where did he get this from? Oh, how was he able to get this? Oh my God, what's going on over here? Investigation he's doing already, calling people up, saying, what did he do? How did he get this? What happened? Probably he did some tricks, he did some fraud, he pulled some scams on people. He got it from there, always thinking negative. So what happens is that this is very bad. A person who has Ain Ra'ah, this is a very bad person. So that's what the Zohar HaKadosh says. Stay away from him. Don't even come. If you see him, go somewhere else. Don't even stand in the same room with him. Why? Because he's gonna look at you. Always looking for problems. What did this guy do? What did this guy? Always looking to put everybody down. Negative. Negativity. Pessimism. That's what it is.
But the human nature, we as people are jealous, yes or no?
Yeah, it's true what you're saying, but some people are very jealous. They have a very big problem with this, So people like this, stay away from them because they're going to cause you harm. You know why? Because when they see you, they put Ain Hara on you right away. Right away they put Ain Hara. They're looking, oh, he's got a nice suit there. Oh, he's wearing a nice suit. Oh, look at the car he's driving. Oh my God. Oh, everything is jealous. Everything he sees other people, always jealous of everything, Bad person. Stay away from him, Person like this, because he will look at you and harm you. He has the power to harm you because he's a very jealous person by nature, And the best way to guard yourself from a person like this, you know what it is, right? Sometimes, what are you going to do? You can't stay away from him forever. Sometimes he's going to see you. So you know what the best way is. Don't egg him on, Don't inspire him to be jealous of you. So what does that mean? Don't do things, that makes him jealous. You know what I mean? To try to stand out, to try to look like you're rich, look like you're wealthy. That's why, the smartest people, we have to learn from the Ashkenazim, this. You know what I mean? The Ashkenazim, they have millions of dollars, in the bank, over here, all kinds of things, but they don't show their money to nobody. You know what I mean? They look like very normal, very down to earth. They don't drive fancy cars, you know what I mean? They don't do all the fancy lifestyle, making fancy parties. They do everything like low key, That's the thing. One time a person asked me, a friend of mine who I study with, he told me, he says, Rabbi, he says, you know what? He says, I'm making some pretty good money now, This guy's a dentist, you know what I mean? He's making some good money. So he says, I want to buy a BMW, He says, do you think I should buy a BMW? BMW? So I told him, I said, no, buy Toyota, buy a regular car. Don't show people that you have money. Because when you have a BMW, everybody's looking at you. Oh, if he's driving this car, you can imagine how much money he has. Oh boy, That's why, if you want to keep your wealth and you want to keep your, success, don't show people, that you have money. Don't show people, don't show off, Don't wear fancy, there are some people, it's not enough for them to have a normal suit. They have to buy like a really fancy one, with the fancy shoes, like nobody else wears. He buys a special fancy stuff, to stick out.
Can I have a question? Somebody says this guy's a dentist, make money and driving Toyota. This guy is cheap.
It's okay. It's okay. Let them think. Let them think that it's cheap. You know, it's better that they should think. It's better that they should. Yeah, I got
Keep the
you.
money in the pocket. You got to spend.
You
Right?
got. It's better that they should think that it's cheap than you should get ein hara on him. You know, this harms him. You understand? What do you care? Let them think you're cheap. Believe me, nobody with Toyota is cheap. It's normal. It's a normal life. You know, that's a normal. You live normal. You know, don't try to stand out and show off to everybody. This is a very bad quality the person has. You know, and this is what happens. The people who show off, and they try to stand out, what happens is that people with the Ein Hara are looking for these people, to look at them and to give them Ein Hara, So you're giving them the chomer, the material to give Ein Hara to you, So don't stand out. Just dress normal like everybody else, Drive normal like a normal car. Don't be so fancy. Don't be so, don't show people everything that you have. This is a very bad thing, With us, unfortunately, with the Sfaradim, we have this problem. You know what I mean? We like to show off, all the time. Showing people. Ashkenazim, smart people. They don't show nothing, So you look at him, he looks like a regular guy. You know what I mean? You can't see no money in this guy. You know what I mean? You don't see nothing there. So, you leave him alone. You don't put Ein Hara on a person like this. But a person who's showing off all the time, always getting Ein Hara, and he's getting harmed by this. You understand? That's the thing, That's why the Chazal say that 9 out of 10 people, die because of Ein Hara. 9 out of 10. Can you imagine? It harms you, Ein Hara. Very bad. So stay away from that. Stay away from people who have Ein Hara, and also don't give them a reason to give you Ein Hara, by showing off. Showing your wealth, showing how fancy you are, showing how successful you are. People like to do this, oh, look at me, You see how I am? Oh, I'm doing good, huh? Look at me. No good, this is not good, Be Ashkenazi, Convert to be Ashkenazi. Dress normal, drive normal, do everything normal, nothing fancy.
So Ashkenazim don't show off?
Don't drive. I'm not telling you, to drive a cheap car, some junk, piece of junk, what I mean? I'm not talking about that. But do everything normal, just normal. Don't be cheap, don't be too fancy either. Right in the middle, Benoni. That's the best thing to be, I'm telling you. You want to avoid troubles? Be just regular, normal guy, like everybody else, Don't stand out and don't show off. Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, great. So let's move on a little bit. Next one. So then we're talking about also, we talked about this yesterday, right? That a person who has a good friends, he's going to have success in his life, because good friends give him good advice and, they give him the proper path. But bad friends, just stay away from bad people. Bad friends who influence you badly. They call you up and they say, let's go over here, let's do this, let's do all these bad things, sins, they bring you into sins, into problems. Stay away from people like this, bad friend, Don't call them, don't speak with them. We spoke about this yesterday a little bit, but again, we have to say, right, that a bad friend can cause you a lot of harm, So because they influence you all the time, they egg you on, they seduce you, into bad things. Sometimes they'll get you into a bad business deal, or bad investment, you know what I mean? A person like this, because he's a rasha. His head, is broken, his screws are loose in the head, you know what I mean? A person like this. So he tells you all kinds of bad things. Stay away from a bad friend. That's the thing, right? Then the next one, shachenra, right? We talked about this yesterday. A bad neighbor, They say, right, bad neighbor is very dangerous. You know why? Because he's always close to you. He comes to your house, he comes in, he comes out, and he's giving you some bad things over there, bad advice, bad influence. Right? They say this is the story that they say about right, the story of Korach, right? And what happened over there? That Korach was next to the Levi'im, and Datan Ba'aviram. Those Levi'im and Datan Ba'aviram that were on his side, on the Mishkan, he influenced them badly, because Korach was a Rasha, He was a wealthy man, successful, what I mean? But big bad mouth, bad mouth, bad rasha, always getting people into bad things. So there are people like this, you understand? When you're close to them, you don't want to be a person's neighbor like this. That's why, I'll tell you something interesting, that the big chachamim, that I saw in this generation, whether it was Maran Rav Ovadia Rasham or anybody else, Rav Eliashiv, any other people, all the big Gdolim, they came out, sometimes to go give classes, in other areas, in other neighborhoods, where people are not so religious. They came. But they always were makpid, to live. Where did they live? Always in a religious neighborhood, with the tzaddikim. You know what I mean? They never lived in a place where it's rashaim over there. People who are not religious, because those people, they're bad neighbors, they give you a bad influence. That's the thing, So always a person should try to live in a good neighborhood, with good people, with religious people, God-fearing people, Irat Shamayim. I mean, don't live with Rashaim, with the sinners. You don't want to live with people like that, because that neighbor can influence you, and get you into trouble. Just like Korach got them into trouble, all his neighbors, the Levi'im over there, Datan Ba'aviram, they got them all into trouble. Why? Because they are neighbors. That's the only thing, But they say on the other hand, on the other side, right? Who was on the other side? On the eastern side was Moshe Rabbeinu and Aharon. And who was their neighbors over there in the Mishkan? Right? There was Yehuda, right? And Issachar and Zevulun. These were the tribes, So these tribes, because they were close to Moshe Rabbeinu and Aharon, they became all Bnei Torah, tzaddikim. Bnei Torah, chachamim, they became. That's why most of the chachamim, that come in Am Yisrael, they're from these tribes. Yehuda, Issachar, and Zevulun. These are all Bnei Torah. They're all that. So that's what happens when you stay close to a tzaddik, Moshe Rabbeinu, Aharon. You become also Ben Torah. You become also tzaddik. Also, you start to learn Torah. And appreciate the Torah. But that's the thing. So that's what happened. They all became Bnei Torah because they were next to tzaddikim. So that's the thing. Always it's good to have a good neighbor. Don't stay around with bad neighbors. Sinners. People who they live a sinful lifestyle. Like today we have these mafionerim, mafia people, crooks, gangsters, God knows, all kinds of things. Or these they're also we have people like this, homosexuals, gomikim, all kinds of bad people, like this, You want to be neighbor with a person like this, he's going to give you bad influence. You don't want to hang around with people like that. Make sure when you move to a place, you buy a house. You're investing a lot of money, right? $1 million, $2 million, whatever it is. Make sure you know who your neighbor is, before you move there. Because if you are living next to Reshaim, there are people who are very wealthy in America, in certain places like New Jersey, Long Island, but they're Reshaim, they're drug, they do drugs, and all kinds of bad things, Can you imagine you spend $2 million on a house, and your next door neighbor is a drug addict, prostitute, zona, Who wants to be with people like this? This is who you want to have for a neighbor? What's going to be with you if this guy's your neighbor? You're going to become like him. Lo aleinu, That's the thing. So you got to be careful with that. Okay, so this one is also very important here. I got to tell you this one, right? So it says, right, Rabbi Shimon Omer haloveh ve'eno meshalem. Right, so Rabbi Shimon says, what's one of the worst things? A bad lifestyle. You got to learn from this, This is a very good, very important point. A person, he likes to borrow money sometimes. He doesn't have enough money because, he can't pay his bills or, he needs money for business, to invest in a business or whatever it is, borrows money. But he doesn't pay back, There are people like this, you see all the time people like this, They borrow money, but when it comes to payback, I'm sorry, I don't have, I'm sorry, I spent all the money, nothing left for you, sorry. What sorry? What are you talking about? If you didn't have enough money to pay back, why did you borrow the money then? So you're irresponsible. So it says right in Tehillim, Lo Rasha ve'eno meshalem. That's what it says. The Rasha, he borrows money but he doesn't pay back. This is a Rasha. A person is irresponsible. What are you doing borrowing such big money if you don't have money to pay back? This it makes you into Rasha. There are some people, they don't care. They say, what? Yeah, I'll borrow the money now because I need it now. I'm in bad shape. And then, we'll see if I can pay. We'll see. What do you mean you'll see? What do you mean? If you don't have the income to pay the loan, don't borrow. Don't borrow from nobody. Because if you do, you're Rasha. So what happens is like this, I have to tell you. People think, it's okay, because they can't do nothing to me, If I borrow money, and I don't pay back, they can't do nothing to me. What are they going to do? What is it going to do? Kill me? Sometimes they do, by the way, but sometimes they do kill you. But that's not the thing, right? Even if they don't kill you, the problem is like this, what happens is that when you don't pay back the money, this person, has kfeda on you, he's angry at you. And in Shamayim, they're going to do justice for him, they're going to bring justice to him. So what's going to be is, because you can't pay him the money you owe him, something bad could happen to this person, Lo aleinu. Why? Because he keeps on doing this. He's irresponsible. You know, just borrows money, doesn't pay, you know. So everybody's cursing him, you know. Imach shemo v'zichro. He took my money, he never paid me back. Look what he did to me. He took, you know, $100,000, never paid my... This happens all the time, by the way, you know. In this community, people are always telling me, you know, this problem, you know. Yeah, you know, he didn't pay me back, you know, he took my money. You know, and we didn't have any witnesses, so you can't prove it. You can't even take him to the Beit Din or the court, nothing. You know, so he's got nothing on him. You know, like Bukharians, you know, they like to lend money, you know, to the, you know, like they say, yeah, we're all family, you know. Yeah, so we don't need witnesses. We don't need a contract. You need witnesses. You need a contract. If you lend money without witnesses contract, you're a shoter, you're a rasha also. Why? Because you're causing this person to sin against you. That's what it says in the Gemara. It says in the Talmud. You know, that's what it says in the Shulchan Aruch. So you gotta be careful, you know. If you lend somebody money, don't cause him to sin, you know, by doing it just, you know, yeah, just me and you know, we come to my house, you know, I'll give you. You know, he gives them, you know, takes out his money, no witnesses, no edim, no contract, no nothing. So then, you know, 6 months later, this guy's going to tell you, I'm sorry, I don't have nothing to give you. What do you mean you don't have? If you have witnesses, if you have a contract, you can take him to Beit Din, you can take him to court. You know, you can do something. But if you don't, what do you got? You got nothing on him. Shoteh, fool, you're a fool. Oh, yeah, but he's Bukhari, you know, I love him, you know, he's my fan. You're crazy. You commit meshuga. What are you talking about, Bukhari? What are you talking about? You have to make a contract. You have to have witnesses. You know, that's the way to do it, to defend yourself. Otherwise, you're causing yourself to sin and him to sin also. ברוך ה' לעולם, אמן אמן. רבי חנן השומר, עשה הקדוש ברוך הוא לעוזר בישראל, לפיכך חיבר להם תורה ומצוות, שנאמר לא נחפש למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר.